Okay, so in this video I explain about the transverse binary fission in paramecium. Okay, so transverse binary fission in paramecium. Okay, right. So already you know that the binary fission means generally the parent individual divided into two daughter individuals. That is called as binary fission. I think you learn in previous classes. Okay, in your previous classes, in your 10th classes. Okay, right. So here in the binary fission, there is two types of binary fissions. One is longitudinal binary fission, and second one is transverse binary fission. So longitudinal binary fission means if the organism divide into two daughter individuals through the longitudinal axis. Okay, or if it divide into transversely, that is called as transverse binary fission. Okay, right. Here we see the transverse binary fission that will be occur in paramecium only. Okay, so longitudinal binary fission will be occur in euglena. Okay, right. So let us explain about the transverse binary fission. Okay, right. Here we see this is the paramecium. Generally, the paramecium is called as slipper animalcule. Okay, slipper. It look like our slipper. Okay, so slipper animalcule. Okay, right. So this is the structure of the paramecium. Okay, now here paramecium involving in the transverse binary fission. Okay, so transverse binary fission is one of the asexual reproduction. Okay, the chromosomes are not involved in this process. Okay, right. So here we see at first what happens when it involves in the transverse binary fission. First it stops the feeding. Okay, it stops the feeding, and then during the favorable conditions only paramecium undergoes transverse binary fission. Okay, so during the favorable conditions, at first it stops the feeding, and then the paramecium contains two nucleus. One is macronucleus and one is micronucleus. So at first the macro and micronucleus undergoes divisions. Okay, so before that the oral groove, this is the structure of oral groove. So this is the structure of oral groove. Okay, so first the oral groove will be disappears from the parent. Okay, at first the oral groove will be disappear when it starts the binary fission. Okay, here we are seeing the oral groove disappears. Okay, there is no oral groove. This is the parent individual. Here we involving the transverse binary fission. At first, the oral groove will be disappears. Okay, from the parent. Okay, right. Here the macro and micro. So this one is the macronucleus and this one micronucleus. So macronucleus and micronucleus now undergoing division. Okay, so my macronucleus divided into two daughter nucleus by the amitosis process. Okay, so macronucleus is divided by amitosis process, and micronucleus, this one is divided into two daughter nucleus by the mitosis process. Okay, here once you observe, here micronucleus divided into two daughter micronucleus by the mitosis process. Here the macronucleus divided by amitosis process. Okay, like these two ways, the macro and micro both are divided into two daughter individuals. They are starting now. The division will be starting now. Okay, yeah. Next, at that time, at the middle of the body, a small constrictions are formed. Okay, small constrictions are formed at the middle of the body. Okay, these constrictions gradually deepen. Okay, and it will be divided in total body into two halves. Okay, two halves. Okay, so these constrictions gradually deepen inside, and then the one parent individual divided into two daughter individuals. The body, total whole parent body divided into two daughter individuals. Okay, by the formation of constriction. Okay, yes. So Here, the anterior part of the individual is called proter, and the posterior individual is called opisthe. Okay, two daughter individuals are formed. Okay, the anterior part of daughter individual is called as named as proter, and the posterior individual, daughter individual, named as opisthe. Okay, right. Here, if we take the proter, the anterior part of the individual, proter, generally receives anterior contractile vacuole from the parent. Okay, anterior contractile vacuole from the parent. It receives anterior contractile. Where is the anterior contractile vacuole? So this one is the anterior contractile vacuole, and this one is the posterior contractile vacuole. Okay. Here, after the division, the proter receives from the parent anterior contractile vacuole. So proter is the anterior part. So it receives there is only possible to receive anterior contractile vacuole only. Okay, and cytostome and cytopharynx. Okay, so proter receives from the parent anterior contractile vacuole, cytopharynx and cytostome. These three parts are received from the parent proter. Okay, right. But it newly forms a oral groove and posterior contractile vacuole. Okay, it forms newly a fresh oral groove and posterior contractile vacuole. Okay, this is about the proter. Okay, so generally proter receives from the parent or anterior contractile vacuole, cytopharynx, cytostome. Okay, but newly forms a oral groove and posterior contractile vacuoles both are newly formed. Okay, right. This is about the proter. Opisthe here, opisthe generally receives from the parent is the posterior contractile vacuole. So posterior contractile vacuole only receives from the parent, because the opisthe is the posterior part of the individual. So there is only possible to receive posterior contractile vacuole only. Okay, but they forms newly anterior contractile vacuole, cytopharynx, cytostome and oral groove. Okay, they newly forms anterior contractile vacuole, cytopharynx, cytostome and oral groove. This is about the opisthe. Okay, are you clear? Right. Here, generally the transverse binary fission in paramecium, generally called as the homothetogenic division. The division of the or transverse binary fission in paramecium are also called as, the division is also called as homothetogenic division. Okay, so homothetogenic division. Okay, homothetogenic division. This division is also called as homothetogenic division. Because why you are calling like that? Because of the plane of fission. That means this one is. Okay, the plane of the fission. Okay, plane of fission. Okay, occurs at the right angle to the longitudinal axis of the body. Okay, plane of fission occurs at the right angle to the longitudinal axis of the body. That's why this division is called homothetogenic division. Okay, the plane of the fission, that means cutting part. Okay, the plane of the fission occurs at the right angle to the longitudinal axis of the body. This is right angle division. Okay, so that's why it's called as homothetogenic division. Okay, so almost the transverse binary fission completed in paramecium within 2 hours. Okay. Right.